Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for Mortal Engines. So Mortal Engines is produced by Peter Jackson. Unlike all the posters want to try to make you think, it's not directed by him. It is produced by Peter Jackson and directed by some other guy that I don't know. And it follows the story of this woman who is living on the outside of society. Society is basically comprised of cities that live like on top of giant rocks and they move around. And she tries to kill someone, and in doing so, she gets another guy lost, so they kind of team up, and their goal is to try to take down this guy who is doing a lot of bad things to a lot of people. If that plot sounds really small, I'm sorry, but this movie doesn't really have that strong of a plot. So Mortal Engines, it's a movie that's based on a book series. It's got a big budget, and it's got a lot of CGI and everything, and I wasn't really looking forward to it. I thought that the trailers looked kind of stale, and I kind of knew exactly what I was getting into when I went to go see it. And what I got was actually a lot worse than I expected. I thought that this movie was just going to be boring but passable. I thought it would at least be competent, but honestly, I think that Mortal Engines is one of the most incompetent movies to come out in theaters. Not one of the worst, I just think it's one of the most incompetent because this movie has no clue what entertaining people is. It just thinks that if you show big CGI, and if you just show a bunch of action, and a bunch of actors, and a bunch of craziness going on at once, that'll entertain someone. That's not true. I honestly, even with some movies, I can see why people like them, even if I hate them. Like, I don't know, certain movies like The Nutcracker and The Four Realms, I didn't like it, but if somebody did like it, I could see it, I could understand why. If someone likes this movie, I could not see why, because this movie makes no real effort to entertain you. All it does is just show a bunch of stuff on screen and hope that you're able to comprehend it. And that's not great for a movie that has no real fan base, that's coming out at the busiest time of the year during Christmas, where there's a bunch of other movies coming out, that has a huge budget. If anything, I feel like this movie was just a disaster from the get-go. It just feels like a huge waste of money because it feels like nobody on set really cared about making this movie great. The acting performances are all really stale. None of them have any vigor to them. They're all just reading lines directly. All of the ideas of characters are really just cardboard cutouts that feel like just ways to progress the story. I know a lot about the backstory of these people, but the worst part is that none of these characters have personality. I could not name a single personality trait of any of the characters other than like simple one-word stuff. Like the main guy in it, he's like curious about the world, and the one woman in it, she's like stoic, or it's just none of the characters had personality, so there's no one to latch onto. And when they try to get more emotional with the characters, there's backstory leading up to it, so it's not like it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's like you don't really care about the people, so you have no reason to care about the movie. I think Mortal Engines just has its looks going for it. It just has the CGI, but that's not enough to hold a movie up. I was bored out of my mind watching Mortal Engines, and I wasn't expecting it to end up on what will probably be my bottom 15 of the year, but I honestly think that it's got a good chance at this point. It bored me to tears. I wanted it to be over, and once it was, I immediately left the theater. I think that this was a waste of time, a waste of money, and just a waste of human effort. I think that there's a lot of other better movies that could have been worked on instead of this, but this is what we got. I will give Mortal Engines a 2.75 out of 10. Alright, that concludes my review for Mortal Engines. So, what are your thoughts on this film, or have you read the books, and what do you think of them? Comment in the comment section below and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.